Is Sophia available yet?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right.
My apologies, I had some trouble finding the link because it's sent to me over text, and I'm still kind of in that phase where, technology is not my strong suit.
Oh, wow. Well, you can hang out with me because we would understand each other. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Respond to Racism. I'm Willie Poinsett, President and co founder of Respond to Racism, and we welcome you to our community meeting. Let us begin with our land and acknowledgement.
Right, thank you guys for joining. I just wanted to remind everyone that even though we're not physically standing on the same piece of land, we are all in Lake Oswego, which is stolen land from the Cowlitz, Clackamas, and Kalapuya tribes of Oregon. I think it's always important to continue to do research on these tribes, even regardless outside of the meetings.
Thank you very much. Before we begin tonight, let us get ourselves centered with some agreements, some expected outcomes, and an acknowledgement of what our mission is. We're here to educate and empower Lake Oswego residents and the institutions with the tools to combat racism in all its forms and make Lake Oswego and Oregon a better place to live for residents of all races and ethnicities. Our agreements for the night that we adopted a while back, I'll just go over them with you. Speak from your own experience. Use I statements. Don't generalize others' experiences. Listen with full presence, curiosity, and open to other perspectives. Ask clarifying questions if you don't understand. Assume the best intent and lean into discomfort and challenge biases. Please lean into discomfort if you're in a conversation and something sort of makes you feel uncomfortable. Check yourself out, challenge biases, yours and others. Oops, ouch. We may stimulate, stimulate pain in ourselves and others. And I ask that you take care of yourself. Don't sit here in pain. Let's take care of yourself. Step up, step back. Speak up if you tend to hold back. Listen more if you tend to talk a lot. I'm asking that piece because I fall in the latter category. Our expected outcomes for tonight is that you'll get acquainted with who's in the room and on Zoom call who's in your group, who's here. I guess you can scroll and see who's here and put something in the chat if you want to. Uh, just know that we won't solve problems and we're not solving racism in 2 hours. You leave the meeting, I hope, with more questions than when you came with. That you'll have one actionable item that you'll take out here and say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and this is something I can handle and I want. And that can be from an action of interrupting racism, action of educating yourself, whatever you choose to do. But make a little contract with yourself that you're going to do something. And you'll have more ideas of how you can interrupt racism. And this is Women's History Month. And I hope that John and Pat together have figured out that it's a special day for me. It's a special day, and let's see, can we get my picture on the screen, the person I want to recognize and honor for today. On the way. Wrong one. Let's go to the top. Okay. This is my mother, and I'm honoring her, and that's me she's holding. I'm honoring her because today's her birthday. It's Women's History Month, and I'd had to think about what my mother did to help. My mother was born in 1899, so figure out her age for today if she were alive. She actually passed away in 1986, 85, excuse me. But my mother, who didn't have, not even, she went to third grade, but didn't complete third grade. But she was a wise woman who worked very hard. And when I look back in history of people who made a difference, I didn't realize how much of a difference my mother made in my life. That she took me away from the Jim Crow South Carolina, took me up to New Jersey, worked at cleaning people's houses, and while she had me in a rooming home house with someone else that she trusted that would look after me, she made all kinds of sacrifices just so I could get an education. And at the end of the first semester of college, I went to a local school. She looked at me and said, I think you're ready now. I've been with you. I'm going back home. And she went back to South Carolina. But there's a woman there that made a difference in my life, and she is important for women's history for me. Without her, you would not have seen me. Okay, moving on to the next one. The woman in the middle is Septima Poinsett Clark. And Septima Poinsett Clark was, a mighty woman. She was an educator, a teacher in South Carolina, and she got fired because she belonged to the NAACP, which stands for the National Association. Oh, I can't get my other, someone will help me, of colored people. But she was, and it's the NAACP is still around today. It's an organization that has both white and black members, or black and other ethnicities. But it was really to um, help advance at that time colored people. A long time ago, we weren't called black. On my birth certificate, my ethnicity is colored. But Septima spoke out. She was a trooper in fighting for social justice, a trooper in teaching people how to read. Back then, in order to vote, you had to pass a test. And so people who didn't read or write, or a person like my mother with a third grade education, wouldn't have had enough language reading skills. And Seppi sat there. So those people you see around the table and in the background there that are sitting around there are people who are studying, and she's working with them to learn how to read, learn how to write, to and learn how to answer questions so that they could pass the voting test, voter rights test, and move forward. Okay? Next slide. I said Seppi also, Seppi is the nickname the family called her. Septima was a teacher and a facilitator with the Highlander Folk School in Tennessee. And Rosa Parks, there's a young Rosa Clark and a young Septima. She worked with Rosa Parks. Septima helped her. They taught strategies, and that's before Rosa Parks, the whole bus thing. That's not the only thing Rosa Parks did. She was fighting for social justice long before she refused to give up her seat on the bus. So she did a lot of things. But there is Septima, and I think they got together again for another picture with the two of them in their more senior years. And next, well, we'll get to it. This is the quote from Septima. I have great belief in the fact that whenever there's chaos, it creates wonderful thinking. I consider chaos a gift. And sometimes we feel like we're in the midst of all kinds of chaos. It could be organizational, societal chaos, whatever. But it's an opportunity for us to do something else. So please hold on to those words. Chaos is not bad. You can do some great thinking then. Next. There they are. As they age, Septima, much, much, much older. And Rosa Parks, much, much older there. But just the two of them together again. And they worked together for many, many years. And my last one, I think, a photographer from Oregon did a book about the 75, I think it was 75 women, I may have the wrong title, a number, who changed America. And Septima was one of those people who changed America in terms of social justice and the work that she did on the ground from the coast, from South Carolina and on the coast there, across. She traveled all around. She was very much a right-hand person for Martin Luther King. She went with him when he got the Nobel Peace Prize. Septima was the person who was working, and I never had a chance to meet her in person, but I did talk to her on the phone, and she was a wise woman, and I'm glad I had that conversation. And that's my little take for the night on some women that touched me. But Septima has another honor that I want to share. Oh no, that's my mom again. We're missing some money. They've decided to have a $1 coin made in honor of Septima, and hopefully we can find the coin, and I'll be able to give you that the look of it, so that you can have a sense of, or have a chance to go to the bank and see if you can get it. Ah, there it goes. That's the front of it. She was about education, and that's Septima Clark. Septima Poinsett is her maiden name. Clark is her married name. But that's such an honor for someone from our family to have a coin um, made to recognize them. So I hope that we will get some in this area or wherever you live, and we will honor her. And that's my bit on women's history for from me at this time. Okay, I'll go back to the agenda. I'm over time, I know. Now I have to do a little poll I'm gonna see if you're here or you're sleeping on me. So I have a question. Are you ready? A poll just for you to check in. How many times have you attended or responded to racism community meeting in the last 12 months? If this is your first time, please hit that one. If you've been here 2 to 5 times in the past 12 months, hit that button. And if you were here 6 to 12 times, hit that button. Okay, vote so I can see who's here.
Okay, it looks like 93 of 101 people have voted thus far.
Okay. A question is related to me. No, she's related to my husband. She's my husband's aunt. We're almost there.
Yeah, can you see the results, Willie?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Oh, now I can see them. Okay. So we have 20% of the people here tonight for the first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And don't let this be your last time. And we have 41% of the people who were 2 to 5 times. Thank you for coming and thank you for your support. And 38% of the people for 6 to 12 times. Thank you. Okay, we just want to have a sense of who's in the room. Okay, thank you. In the midst of my joy, I also want to acknowledge a sorrow, and that's condolences for the family of Ezekiel Crowder. He's a sophomore at Lake Ridge who died. It was in the paper, and I asked everyone, be in touch with your children, your grandchildren. Don't let them. This time where we're in the house, we're not having the socialization that we normally have. Um, check on people. Check on the children because not all of them are okay. Check on the adults because not all of us are okay. And really check in on the seniors, and I'm one of them, because not all of us are always okay. So we have thank you very much, Sophia. There is a suicide hotline. Oops, it's off the chat. I'll get it back. In the chat, there is a suicide hotline for anyone who needs some help. If you know of anyone, please direct them there so they can talk to someone. Thank you so much, Sophia, for putting that in the chat.
Yeah, anytime. And just to clarify, the line is available in multiple languages for those who English isn't their first language. I believe it's also available in Spanish, Chinese, Korean, Japanese. I'm not entirely sure what other languages it's available in, but English is not the only language. So it should be helpful for anyone in your life, regardless of what language they speak.
Thank you. And Sophia is a high school student and a great, great person, worker bee for Respond to Racism. Thank you so much with the youth groups. Okay. All right, my gratitude. I am in love. Please pull Catherine Phelps up on the screen. I hope you're not eating dinner, Catherine, but we want to have her face. I want people to see who she is. Oh, well, too fast and let your face show, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Thank you.
Okay, somewhere she's coming up to us. Start talking, Catherine. I guess they have it with speaker view. I do, so we can see you.
Yeah.
And Catherine Phelps, the woman who is just magnificent, and Maya, her daughter, her assistant. But Catherine does our story time. And I also want to recognize her for her outstanding presentation at for LO Reads, and also for moderating the questions for Isabel Wilkerson. Very, very, very nice job. But story time is something that we're doing monthly, but hope to move to weekly as soon as we can, because Catherine is just awesome in providing the kind of literature that kids need to read, multicultural, multi ethnic, the whole thing. That's good literature, not stories that are demeaning, but stories that give hope, stories that acknowledge contributions. And today's story was about a young inventor, a young engineer. Well, I mean young. She's probably still in her 20s, but she's invented a couple of things and continues to work. And as an engineer, what and write books for children. That's what she's for, children's books that give children hope, and step by step about how she goes about doing with an invention, how she goes from a thought to an actual item, a product there. And so the kids really enjoyed it. And last month for Black History Month, oh, it was awesome. You did just an awesome job. And your mother read a story for them, and we had the whole family's involved. But I just wanted to show Catherine's face because we're going to see more of her, hear more from her as we go along. Thank you. And she's one of our educators. So, Teacher Catherine, thank you. Bye, Maya. She's gone, right? Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the Lake Oswego High School Equity Council. Some specific people, and I may not have all the names, but two of the students, Jaden Hill and Julia Bohannon, and one of the teachers I know was Sally Farrell, who the students actually wanted to do something for Black History Month at Lake Oswego High School, and they um, asked for infographics, and I was like, "What is an infographic?" Had no idea when I heard about it, but they highlighted several Black people who are in the community, and I know if I start calling names, I'm going to overlook someone, but I know that Catherine was one of them. Bruce A. Poinsett, that's Bruce the Younger. Um, and I don't remember. I was one, and there was someone else that they acknowledged, and they wrote up a little about us, and it was posted on the website there, I guess, at the school, and just to recognize people. And so I want to thank the teacher for reaching out to me and reaching out to others, and for the students for their initiative for Black History Month. Black Lives Matter. Our kids are hearing it. They're getting it. Our Black Student Union, our Youth Empowerment Committee, the high school, Lake Oswego High School, and there's some work going on with Lake Ridge. And I want to recognize my son again, as he's a writer, and he also works really well with the young people. So they've been doing some things. There is a writing, he's doing a writing workshop for Lake Ridge students, and teaching them how to write certain kinds of letters and teaching people how to proofread. So that'll be happening, I think it's on March 14th, but look out for a notice. And now, one of my favorite things is to say, don't forget about the donations. We would love for you to start thinking about donating. You don't have to donate lots. We'll take lots, but you don't have to do lots. You can do a small amount every month. Set yourself up to donate every month. Soon you'll be receiving a letter from me encouraging you to please donate. This is how we survive. This is how there's a lot of work, a lot goes behind the scenes to get to this point for a meeting. So please donate. LO reads, what can I say about Cass? LO picked the best book, I want to say ever right now, because I saw a whole city just united around Cass with the different activities from all aspects of life and living and just being human beings here. And it was wonderful. And to have, I think there was over 900 people tuned in to listen to Isabel Wilkerson, and she presented and had Q&A there. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Congratulations to the committee, that the LO Reads committee, to the library, to the city for what they did, and for having such an awesome book, especially now when we're looking at who gets treated, how they get treated, when they get treated for things, how people are treated in terms of social interactions, and that system, that caste system. If you haven't read the book, I'm not going to tell you anymore. I would suggest you read it. You won't want to put it down. So look at that. Okay, so on top of all of the good stuff that we had going, that storm hit us. A storm that we haven't seen, I think, the likes of in 40 or more years. It's been a long, long, long time. And the storm and people coming together and being without power. Um, but we're here. So I want to thank our utility people, thank all of our neighbors who, if they had something to share or what have you, they were sharing, they were helping each other. People had all kinds of debris in their yards, and still, so if you can help a neighbor or help someone in the neighborhood there, please do, as we're still cleaning up from a storm. And with that, I know I'm past time. Ada?
Well done, Willie. You passed time, but we're so pleased with you. We don't hold it against you. Thank you so much, Willie. All right. every month we ask attendees, to do some things. We give you some actions, and we want to take a second just to see who did what and to acknowledge you. And so we're going to put up another poll. We're going to put up a quick poll to see, when are we going to be able to put up the poll? To see how many of you are able to do some of the activities that we asked. Okay, so please do the poll now. We'll take a quick poll. If you did the cut, if you were, oh, fantastic, you all know what I was thinking. Mind readers. All right, the thing that I like is it looks like almost everybody has read or started reading Caste. Oh my God, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. And so is this the end of the poll, John? Can we look at the results? And so the things that we asked you to do was...
Currently 83 people have responded out of the 103.
Okay, okay. Okay, we can share those results. There'll be if anybody wants to quickly get in now. But one of the things that we asked is to continue the conversation of Americans' caste system, and 77% of you did that, so great job. We asked that you reach out to BIPOC-led equity groups and ask how you can best support them. 25% of you did that. So good job, keep that up. We ask that you continue. 80% of you looked at your own biases. I think this is the very first step in anti-racism work, is to consider one's own biases. So 80% of you did that, well done. We ask that you support Stand for Children and other organizations that support our youth, and 11% did that. And 60% of you attended Elo Reads events. So great job, very pleased. We'll keep asking this and we'll keep sharing. We do want you to remain engaged, so thank you. And okay, so we're done with the poll. We're going to go on to tonight's program. I hope most of you caught our own Catherine Phelps last week when she sat down with Isabel Wilkerson. Catherine, that was fantabulous. Fantabulous, thank you. You know, I can't decide because you got to open up so much. I can't decide if caste, the origins of our discontent, is my favorite, or whether it's The Warmth of Other Suns. The Warmth of Other Suns tells the story of people like Willie's mom, who left the South to provide a better opportunity for their children. And so that was a bit migration. So, you know, Willie, next time you'll share a bit more about that story. It's just so important in our history. In caste, Isabel talks about America being like an old house that is in constant need of repairs. You know, we are the current residents of this old house. You know, she says, America is like an old house. We are the current residents of this old house. What are our responsibilities to this old house and to the future residents of this old house? Do we have a responsibility to maintain this old house? And now those of you who live in actual old houses, and I don't, but those of you who live in actual old houses know that you don't just get out your tool and start knocking down walls and fixing things. You have to use tools that look behind the wall to see what repairs are needed before you even get started. And so we know that this, our beloved country, is in serious need of repairs. And this evening, what we'd like to do is just to start to take a look beneath the surface to see why some things are the way they are. And then we can get on with the business of repairing and renovating and building additions. And so we're going to watch a 15-minute video. After that, we'll go out into breakout rooms for about 25 minutes. And then we'll come back to the larger group to share because I understand that I know there's going to be a lot of learning going on. So please come back to the larger group so that we can all share learnings, okay? When we go to the breakout rooms, we're going to give you a couple of questions to look at. And I think the questions will be in the chat box as well, but let me read them quickly. Just give us another second, please, John. Just give us a second so that I can read the question out loud. Thank you. So what are you feeling right now? And what are your thoughts about describing America as a meritocracy? That's the first question. The second question is, how might your life have been different if you were a different race? And what role did race play in the decisions made by your parents and their parents? Okay, so I think Trina is going to put these questions in the chat. And so as you're watching the clip, please keep these questions in mind. And when we go into breakout rooms, discuss them and come back and share with us. Thank you, John. We can watch the clip now. This system was designed intentionally. This is how it was designed to work. It's working exactly as it was designed. And dismantling it is not going to happen accidentally. So thank you all for watching. We're going to go into breakout rooms. And just as a reminder, please think about your feelings. We want you to spend some time in your feelings. And so what are you feeling right now about the video that we just watched? And what are your thoughts about describing America as a meritocracy? And the second question is, what role did race or religion play in decisions made by your parents and their parents? And how might your life have been different if you were a different race? We really want you to think about that and talk about it. And then please come and share. I think that we're going to have a fantastic conversation when we come back. So John, you can send us to breakout rooms now. Thank you. We'll be there for 25 minutes.
Does anyone happen to
Come back. I hope you had some rich discussions in your groups. Before, I want to share with you just a little poem. I know that most of you have heard this. Like, if anybody has not heard parts of this, I will be so shocked, because I know that I'm in a very special group of people. This is James Baldwin, and he was asked in 1961 about being Black in America. He said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a state of rage almost all of the time and in one's work. And part of the rage is this: it isn't only what is happening to you, but it's what's happening all around you and all of the time in the face of the most extraordinary and criminal indifference of most white people in this country and their ignorance. And I was looking at this poem and I'm thinking that to be a person in this country, regardless of race, and to be relatively conscious should be to be in a state of rage almost all of the time. I don't think that you need to be a Black person in this country if you're conscious that regardless of your race, if you're conscious, and if you're not conscious and we've raised your consciousness tonight, that this state of rage will be felt by most conscious people. And so I want to invite you to, let's just talk about this video. I want to know how you feel. Was this information new? Did you know this? What did it make you feel? What does it make you think? I'm like, so I'm going to try and keep an eye, but please, Pat, Trina, help, but no sharing. No sharing. But let's talk about this. What did you learn? What can we learn from each other here? Right? What can we do with this information? So anybody who wants to share, please just turn on your mic and share.
Barbara, do you want to say something about that? Barbara Solomon?
Hi, thank you. Well, I just, like I was saying to my group, this wasn't new. I had heard a lot of this information before, but that didn't matter. It still made me feel really sick to my stomach. And the rage that you were talking about is that in some ways I just feel helpless because I have benefited from a lot of this, not by choice, but it's happened. And I'm trying to do what I can to make a difference, but there's so much going on. And it just is so unfair. And the fact that this was legal for so long it's just stunning.
Right. Thank you, Barbara, for sharing. And that's the thing about this, is that being a white person and benefiting from this, it's not a conscious choice that white people make. It just happens, it just is. But then we have this information, and what are we going to do with it? And what can we do with it?
Are you asking me specifically?
No. No,
Oh.
I'm not asking.
Well, I mean, I
asking you
think that that's
specifically.
a very
Yes,
important
yes,
question.
yes.
And just personally, I have been involved with a study group on dissecting white privilege and reading. Every month we read different books and talk about it and see what we can do to make a difference. And I don't really get out and about much anymore because of the COVID, but when I do, I am much more conscious. You know, I like to think that I have been, but even more. A couple years ago, I read White Fragility, and that was very eye-opening. And so, you know, I just in my everyday life, when I even when I'm at home, I think about this, but when I step out, I really try to be more conscious of what I'm seeing, and if I have to speak up or say something, and just be more mindful of my own thoughts and you know what I'm projecting, I guess. So
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Well, I think I'm feeling very outraged, which seems to be a pretty typical day for me. Um, it's you know, it's not just seeing the video, which is, you know, it's just such a sock in the stomach. It's just horrifying. But the fact that it was so deliberately designed, you know, to be this way, and that we perpetuate it consciously and unconsciously, and we have. It seems that so many of the people who are in a position to make real changes that could really impact a lot of lives are so I don't really think they're afraid. I think they're power hungry. They don't want to lose their place on the ladder, you know, in the hierarchy. They're so afraid of somebody from who's on a lower rung, you know, coming up and knocking them off of the rung that they're on. And it motivates me on good days to be very politically active and to write lots of letters to get out the vote in as many as I can. And then on other days, it's really just utterly depressing.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Esther. I'm really going to I'm going to encourage you, and I wish that I could insist. If I knew you better, I would insist, but I'm going to encourage you to keep up, you know, to continue being active, because I think that perhaps on those down days, the continued action is sort of taking power back, right? And I think that where we are today, that we just had an election, and if we settle back and relax, things will get worse. And so it requires remaining vigilant, remaining active long before the next election. Yeah. Through this easy period, long before the next election, and doing what we can. That's what I'm trying to do, in addition to cookies and chocolate.
I like that formula. Thank you.
Can I say a little something?
Oh, please do.
Okay, growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, a few years back, and probably still going on, when we talk about the discrimination in housing, there was also discrimination in who got to build the housing. And through some hook or crook, our federal government made the ability of small Black contractors to get construction loans extremely difficult, which was a tool that was used to limit our participation in the construction industry. So it's just another little thing that ended up happening.
That
Thank you
sounds,
for sharing, Bruce.
that sounds like a big thing to me, Bruce. That's
It is big.
It's a big
that
thing.
sounds big. You know, it's just the idea that, you know, a lot of people are worried about their property values. So, you know, just that kind of like, well, if I might lose some of the value of my property if I don't protect it. And it's just, but that goes on everywhere I've ever lived. It goes on, and it's just, yeah. And then that idea of people like, and many of our families, like, why, you know, I worked my way up the ladder, you know, but they, without really thinking about, yeah, you might have worked hard and studied hard in school, but that doesn't mean that you didn't have amazing privileges on the way up. And sometimes people just don't think about that.
The way that a lot of Black people got to buy property in various cities throughout the United States was another tool called a land sales contract, where one person might own the property and they're willing to sell it to you. They knew that you couldn't go to the bank and get a loan, so they had the ability to hold the paper and you made your payments to them. That tool was used all over the place.
So
All of these policies just, oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, all of these policies to me just really speak to the importance of that participatory democracy, of really fighting the indifference of white people, and the privilege they have of having that indifference and living with that indifference. And a thought that I had, sorry to go backwards, but to Esther's point, as far as why white people feel anger and defensive-ness when it comes to being confronted with these facts, I've often wondered if it's the loss of power that makes them deny that this exists, that the system exists, or if it's some type of, I've wondered, you know, when you're confronted with injustice and when you're confronted with participating in that justice with or without your active participation and knowledge or permission, would you really want to know? Or would you be more comfortable, as we all are, right? Is it more comfortable for us just being indifferent? And I hope that this country is being confronted with that more and more and more and more, and being confronted with the discomfort of the knowledge enough that more change can be seen and enacted, and more people are going to start participating in dismantling these systems, because they're gross and they're systemic and they're generational, and it's long overdue. That's all. Sorry.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you. I think, you know, the American exceptionalism is a hard thing to reckon with, because if you believe that America is exceptional and always right, then it's hard to confront the history. It's hard to confront the history, and how do you deal with it? Ignorance is bliss.
Can I throw out
Thank you, Barbara.
Can I throw out a quick statistic?
Please do.
So the top 50 wealthiest Americans have the same as the bottom 165 million.
And much of that bottom 55 million would rather leave things the way they are if it means that the people who are in a lower caste remain in the lower caste.
Right.
You know what I mean? Would rather just not move up. I don't want to progress if all of you will progress with me. So let's all just stay down there. And that's why it's, you know, Isabel Wilkerson says people vote against their own self-interest.
You know, over the years, I've had so many discussions with friends and not so friends, actually, about affirmative action and the evils of affirmative action getting into university or whatever. And I just want to fight back with this statement about this whole thing is affirmative action for white people, and help people understand that's what this was, and it wasn't right. And because there are so many people out there that just don't know this and don't understand this and don't understand how it affected the wealth of people for generations. That thing about it taking 200 years to equalize out the wealth, if we were able to eliminate all those inequities, that's an amazing thought. And that's an amazingly disturbing statistic.
So true. And so true. And that learning, the learning of the American history should be starting in our schools, elementary school, middle school,
100% agree
high
with you.
school, and our schools are failing us. What are the schools teaching? Because our children are growing up with no knowledge about any of this.
100%. I am so excited that the 1619 project is being adopted in so many classrooms around the world, because Black history doesn't start at the Civil War. Black history doesn't start at slavery. It started a long time prior to that. And, you know, my favorite saying is people can't know what they don't know. And when we are not spending the time in our schools educating people to try to dismantle that American exceptionalism, then we're just going to continue to be ignorant, and people are going to struggle with dismantling these feelings or confronting the feelings before they can even dismantle it. So yeah, 100% needs to start in the schools.
Okay.
Does anyone know
Yeah.
whether or not the LO School District is doing anything with 1619?
I don't.
While we wait for somebody to know, let's, Lisa, please unmute yourself and please unmute yourself. I can't find you, but please, oh, there you are. Okay, please unmute, go ahead.
So I wanted to say that one of the things I've really appreciated hearing recently was that Black history is history. Black history or Black American history is American history.
Exactly.
That statement was, I'm embarrassed to say it was mind-blowing to me, because it was such a, it's been so delineated. It's the same as like women's history is like something separate from men's history somehow. And
Yeah.
I really like the idea of pushing back on, I like having African-American Black History Month. I like that because it's important to put it front and center. It's important because it's been silenced for so long. But I also am reaching towards the future of, it's an American experience. It's our experience. And without it, we don't know ourselves. It's impossible to know your family without knowing all of your family. You can't know America without knowing all of America. And then the second thing I wanted to say was, as a white woman, I experienced this when I went and protested with the Wall of Moms. As fraught as that all is, I don't want to talk about that, but what I'm saying is, when I went down to protest, that was my gateway to go protest with the Black Lives Matter group. And I wanted to solve racial inequity that day. I wanted to go down there and say, my marching right now is going to solve this. We're done. No more police brutality tonight. And I have to tell you, I don't think this is unusual for white people generally, because I keep coming up against this. Like, nobody wants to deal with something that's been going on for 400 years if it can't be solved today. They want it to be done. And if it can't get done today, then I don't have time for that. And I think it's really important that as white people, we understand that this is going to take a long time. And if it feels exhausting, that is what our Black neighbors and friends and family members have been feeling their entire lives, the exhaustion. There's statistics and studies about the toll that it has taken to have to carry that alone. And we can feel, you know, it's important that we learn how to carry that burden too. I don't know that it's lighter if we carry it too. I don't know that it is, but we have to get used to the discomfort that comes with the burden of responsibility of dismantling a system that we have benefited from, continue to benefit today. Even though I protested in Portland, I'm still benefiting. Like we have to increase our tolerance for the length of time and effort and energy that it's going to take. And at the same time, also learn from our friends and family and neighbors who are in a different category besides white, that that you have to take care of yourself as well along the way. So it's not about, as a white woman, I sometimes want to go in and just like, I'm just gonna throw myself on a police officer and get shot, you know, like that's not gonna solve anything. Like that's not gonna solve anything. Like you have to take care of yourself too, and be smart and be, you know. So I just want to throw that out there as well. I love that Black history is American history, and
thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. That is so true. Black history is American history. Black history is American history. Before we go on, first of all, I want to just take a second to say to all the facilitators, thank you guys. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. Please coming back. Please keep coming back. And while we continue the discussion, let's do another poll. John, if you could just quickly throw up the poll. Here you go. If you would just take a second to do this poll as we continue with our discussion. So I want to share something that I tell my children. I tell them, and this goes towards American exceptionalism, right? It's like, I love you. I love you doesn't mean that I'm blind to your faults. I am not blind to your faults. I love you in spite of your faults, and I will work with you and help you to be better. And that's what I want for my children. I want them to achieve and to accomplish and to be better. And so I don't believe, and it may be a disservice that I've done to my poor sons, that I've never believed them to be exceptional, because I know parents who believe their children to be exceptional and knew that in first grade they were going to the major leagues. So I know perhaps I failed my sons, but I've never thought them to be exceptional. But I've told them I love you in spite of the fact that you're not exceptional. And together we can work to do better. And I help them and they do the work. And so American exceptionalism and the ability to see America's fault, I don't think that my ability to see that America is not perfect means that I love America any less than anybody else. I think that the fact that I love America enables me to see America as it really is, and to choose to love it and to want it to do better. That's what I believe. So we can keep talking. And let's take a look at the polls. John, is it final? Can I share the results? Wow, did you learn something new this evening? 91%. 91% of people learned something new this evening, and 83% of you heard a different perspective. And what this is making me think is all of the learning that is not going on in our schools. Our schools have an obligation to make sure that when students attend programs like this, that a higher percentage of them will not be hearing the information that we present for the first time. That's what our schools owe us. Our schools owe us the obligation to do better by America. Okay. Is my time up? I think my time is up. I think that this is when I turn it to Terry. Terry, I think I'm turning it over to you right now. I want to encourage everybody to please keep the discussion going in the chat box, and reach out to respond to racism, and just
Great. Thanks, Ada. So what's going on around LO this month? And things that you can do now that you're all feeling so motivated. I hope you jump in and figure out which of these things you want to participate in. So the city council meets twice a month, and you can always provide public comment, either written or you can get onto the Zoom call and provide public comment. And even if you want to comment on something that isn't on the agenda for the meeting, you can do so. So if you've had incidents of racism at your home, if you've had your Black Lives Matter signs stolen, if you have kids in school who are being suffering from microaggressions, if you see things going on in businesses around the city, whether you want to point out things that are going on or praise things if you think things are improving. And also if you notice the city not doing what it should be doing, such as making sure that when they contract with people that they're looking through a equity and a diversity lens to do that. So you just have to register with the city recorder to participate in those meetings, and you can also watch them on their YouTube channel. I want you to mark your calendars for March 9th, and I want everybody to participate in this kickoff meeting that's going on. The city is holding a kickoff meeting for a community dialogue about policing in LO. You have to pre-register to get the link to the meeting. So please, please, please do that. The event will allow the city council and the police department to learn more about the community's expectations around policing. So give that some thought between now and then. What are your expectations around policing? And please don't tell them no call is too small. You don't need militarized police officers going to your neighbor's house because their dog is barking. Okay, sorry, I digressed. Anyway, they're also going to talk about the work that's being done by 3 consultants who are looking at community policing in LO. So register for that and attend. There is, if you follow our Facebook page, this is sort of exciting. So there's an annual Fair Housing Council poster contest. The theme of the poster that kids should draw, hopefully, is it's fun having all kinds of neighbors. I think that's such a beautiful theme. So if you have created children, grades 1 through 8, please get them to draw a poster and send it to the Fair Housing Council. And there's a link here to the information on what size and how to submit it. And the deadline is March 12th, so you still have plenty of time. There's a student anti-racism letter writing workshop hosted by Lake Ridge High School and the Equity Council. And it's going to be Sunday, March 14th from 2 to 5 p.m. And there's a workshop from 2 to 2:30. There's proofreading support with Respond to Racism volunteers, and you can register there at the link. Okay. This testimony on this House bill is declaring racism as a public health crisis. The House bill is going to be looked at Wednesday and submitted to a different committee, the Rules Committee. I talked or emailed with Representative Salinas' staff today about this. So we will send an update about providing some written or verbal testimony on this bill once it gets set for a hearing. So stay tuned on that. As always, we like you to know that this resource is available, the Racial Equity Support Line, staffed by people with lived experience of racism, offering support, and then also the bias hotline or hate crime hotline. If you are aware of an incident, if you have a sign defaced, if you see graffiti or tagging, those types of things, we would love for you to report those to the bias hotline so it can be tracked, because Without that information, there's no data about what's going on, that's really available to the state. There's not on here, but starting tomorrow for 6 Tuesday nights in a row at 10 p.m., ABC is having a special called Soul of a Nation. And it will present viewers with a unique window into authentic realities of Black life and dive deeper into this critical moment of racial reckoning. It looks like it should be a really, really fascinating series. So mark your calendar. And then the last thing is getting involved with Respond to Racism. So John is going to put up a survey, and if you would like to volunteer, we would like to know what your talents are and what kind of help you would like to provide our organization. And then there should be a link to our t-shirts and our signs, so please order and we will make them available to you. And then the next community meeting is the first Monday in April, which is the 5th. So
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. And in addition to everything that Terry has asked, we want you, if you haven't done so yet, to continue reading or to finish reading CAST and to continue the discussions of America's caste system. And we encourage you to also continue to examine the role that systemic racism plays in your life and to reach out to BIPOC-led equity groups and ask how you can support them. Okay, I want to recommend another book. We talked about this in my group and I've read it, and some of my participants in my group have read it. And Richard Rothstein was one of the speakers in the video that we watched. And if you haven't read The Color of Law, it's a fantastic book. It's a good read. You will enjoy reading it. I think, is that to Willie now?
Well, everything has been said and done for tonight. People have homework, have things to think about. What can I say? Other than thank you so much for coming. Keep up the work. Don't give up. You may get tired, so take a little rest. Not too long though. But then get up and continue the work, because we're in this fight together and we are making a dent. People in Lake Oswego are hearing about racism, talking about racism, talking about ways to dismantle it. And I've got to believe that out of all of this, some very good things are going to happen. Please, 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 as Terry said, the policing kickoff, we really want people to be involved. Please to be involved. We're looking at policing in Lake Oswego, and they want some authentic voices. If you know people of color, BIPOC people, please encourage them to tune in and be present. If you know people that have had good, bad, or indifferent experiences, have them tune in. Anyway, we want to hear from everyone. And with that, thank you for listening to me ramble on and on as I usually do, beyond my time, and I'll hear about it. But, that goes with all the years that I've been here. How is that?
Thank you, Willie.
For my age. And with that, for everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing in the conversations. Thank you for opening up yourself to learning and to teaching. All of that's happening in our exchanges. And thank you, Ada, again for your presentation. You're so wonderful. And so we'll see you on the screen again. That's a little plug to have you back again to present some information. Thank you and good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, Willie.
And do your best.
Bye-bye, everybody.
I thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Terrence, oh, he left. I did